Hi, it's Dr. Busham. Today we're going to talk about the Ideate stage in the creative problem solving system. And I'm going to share out my screen. Last time we talked about the clarifying stage. And so we're going to talk about ideating today. And ideating is simply coming up with lots of different out-of-the-box thinking. So Stephanie Kolak said this quote: all sorts of things can happen when you're open to new ideas and playing around with things. Matter of fact, there's actually something called strategic play in corporate America where the process teaches executives and decision makers and project managers, anyone who has to think creatively about their business, how to literally use strategic play, and they use Legos. I've taken the course. It's absolutely wonderful. And it's a way that our brains work, that when we look at new ideas and we play around, it literally unlocks and helps our brain think of things and connect dots that we may not have seen in the past. So creative play is actually something that's very important in the ideation process. So one of the tools in ideating, and ideating again is coming up with lots of different ideas in regard to our problem questions, right? In clarifying, we made a goal statement, we made a problem statement that was, hey, wouldn't it be great if, right, we had enough money, or in what ways might we increase our revenue? In what ways might we reduce cost? How could we make this process more efficient, right? So what the Crazy Eights do is it's a component that you take a piece of paper and you fold the paper lengthwise, fold it in half again, fold it in half again, and fold it in half again. And what you get are actually 8 boxes. And what you do with this is that you make a starter statement, and everybody gets 1 minute to scribble something down in the box with ideas that might help solve the problem question. Most people love this. It's a lot of fun. Some people draw pictures. I love actually pictures. Some people draw workflows. But in 8 minutes, you'd be amazed at how many different ideas that you can come up with in regard to creating ideas. Once you come up with different ideas, you've got to have some must criteria, all right? So sorting criteria and ideas is an absolute requirement, right? That's the must criteria. These are must-haves and wants. I like to call them critical success factors. A must-have is a critical success factor. If we don't have this, whatever it is, it will fail. And those are the ones that are we've got to concentrate on the most. Again, they're deemed to be critical for the success of the project. And again, without this feature, the solution will fail. What criteria are things that are really highly desirable? You know, for instance, if you're building a car, it's got to have a motor. It might not be a gasoline motor, it might be a diesel motor or an electric motor, but it's got to have a motor, right? Without some way to propel the vehicle, you don't have a car, right? Highly desirable features might be getting into the interior and making sure that your steering wheel and your pedals and your dashboard are ergonomically designed so that it's easy to drive, right? Highly desirable features might be for someone who likes a sporty ride, having a sport suspension, but the car doesn't have to have a sport suspension to be a car. It can have a regular suspension. That's a want, right? They're important, but they're not an absolute requirement. It does play a value-added role. So taking our auto example into considerations, you have cars that are a little bit more bare bones. Think about a smart car, right? It will get you from place A to B, mind you, not very fast, maybe not very safe. I would hate to get hit with one of those things by another vehicle. And you certainly aren't going to be able to put a lot of luggage in a smart car, right? But it does get you from A to B. To add value to that, well, if I've got a family of 4, I've got to have a 4-door truck, SUV, or car. That adds value to me. I'm going to pay more for a car or an automobile that seats 4 because it meets my need, right? And if I have a need for luxury, then I can start putting luxury items into the car. And something, for instance, Mercedes-Benz does. Most people don't know this, but when you go in and get your oil changed, which oil change comes free for X amount of years, they give you another Mercedes or a loaner car to drive. So you don't have to sit and wait. You don't need a ride and have somebody drop you off or take an Uber or whatnot. They give you another car to drive. And usually it's another Mercedes-Benz. And so that's a real value-added service that helps people that are very busy and their time is valuable to them. And think about when we talk about want criteria and adding value, this is where we can add novelty. This is where we can think out of the box and go, who was the first person that thought about putting a Bluetooth radio in a car? I love Bluetooth. Think about Apple and Apple Play. Man, I have one car that doesn't have Apple Play, but it has Bluetooth. So I can use Spotify and I Bluetooth my Spotify and, it's got a beautiful sound system. But my other car actually has Apple Play and I absolutely love Apple Play. Matter of fact, instead of using the onboard navigation system, I use Waze, and Waze pops up on my screen through Apple Play because let's face it, most built-in nav systems for cars are an absolute waste of money. That's why Apple Play and other apps exist so that you can use a real maps program like Google Maps or Apple. I hate Apple Maps, but Waze I love. So I think you kind of get the idea. Most must-have versus want criteria. One way to actually do this is to do a tool called Highlight, Cluster, and Restate. So what this tool does is that you put all of your ideas up, let's say maybe on a poster board, right? You stick a big piece of poster board and you put your ideas up there in a target. So you build a target or you take sticky notes and you write your ideas on the sticky notes from the Crazy Eights and you put them up on the board. And then what you do is that then as a group, you look at those different ideas, you highlight the ones that you think are really good, and then you begin to find themes. Multiple people will have the same ideas. Those ideas will overlap. That becomes a theme. You cluster those together, and then you take those as that theme, you look at them, and then you can restate them more clearly. You can refine the idea. You can add novelty together. And we call this the hits are the ones that are really, really good, that are doable, implementable, and will help solve the problem. And then we cluster those into groups where maybe there's 3 main themes or ideas that develop. And then again, we look at those themes, the cluster, and we can restate them, and then we do it all over again until we develop 3 distinct, clear ideas. So one way to help us generate ideas or restate those ideas is that we can ask ourselves this question. Well, okay, I see these themes. What do I see myself doing, or what I see myself doing with that theme is, right? Okay, reducing production costs by 25% in the next year by replacing our current production line with a new system, right? Several people may have come up with the theme of reducing cost. Several people may have come up with the cluster or the theme that, you know what, we need to do this within the next year or so. And another theme may have come up that said, hey, you know, we could really use a new production line. When you put those three themes together, what I see myself or what I see our organization doing is reducing production costs by 25% in the next year by replacing our current production line with a new system. I hope you see how that works. Example two, you know, what do I see myself doing? What I see is I see us breaking out our current communication paradigm, breaking out of our current communication paradigm by developing a cross-functional team that includes 3 people each, 3 from marketing, 3 from finance, 3 from research, and 3 from development. So in this example, this was the who part of that clarifying, right? The what was the problem was our communication. They weren't communicating well. And so there may have been a theme that we needed to communicate better, and that our existing process, our existing communication culture needs to change. How does it need to change? Well, maybe multiple people said, you know, we need some cross-functional communication. Cross-functional communication is communication between different departments within an organization. And then the more defined or refined areas was, hey, you know what? It'd be great if we get 3 people from these 4 departments, marketing, finance, research, and development. And then you can pass that on to the development stage and actually begin to create something of value that can be eventually implemented. So we are going to move on to the development stage in the next video. I hope you got some value out of some of the ideation tools, and also are looking at the tools guide that is part of this course from the Continuing Education Foundation. There are dozens of tools and they are categorized by each stage so that you can have an idea of the plethora of opportunities and ways that you can implement each one of these 4 stages. Thanks. I'm going to stop my share, and we'll pick this up on our next video.